What's happening, everybody? Welcome to this edition of Tyrone Bowman Live. As always, there's a lot going on within the nation and around the world. For those of you that are coming on, I greet you in advance and thank you for being a part of this Monday edition of Tyrone Bowman Live. I'll be talking about the top stories from politics and business and even some from within the sports world. So it's time to get this party started. To give you a preview, I'll be talking about what Reuters' headline is: Iran hardliners rally behind their new leader, which is unsettling the global markets. And Iranians are deeply divided over Mojabata's Khamenei's rise to power. And the Pentagon identifies the seventh soldier who was killed in action during Operation Epic Fury. So let's get it started. And the FBI launches a terrorism probe into the IED attacks outside of New York City Mayor Mandani's house. All right, according to Reuters, I also want to thank everyone who has subscribed to Tyrone Bowman Live. Appreciate it. We're on the road to getting 4,000 subscribers. And with your help, we're going to get it done. According to Reuters news agency, and I want to find out who this article is written by. This article was written by Parisha Havazidi and Mayan Lubel. The headline reads, Iran hardliners rally behind a new leader. And this is a basic summary before I get into the substance of the story. Mojaba Khamenei, who's been named Iran's new supreme leader, and choice signals hardliners firmly are in charge. The loyalists take to the streets in support of the new leader. Oil prices continue to surge as the Middle East producers are cutting their supply. NATO, the National Atlantic Treaty Organization, air defenses shoot down missiles in Turkish airspace. Iran hardliners staged a show of force on Monday, taking to the streets to proclaim their loyalty to new supreme leader Mojtaba Khamenei, whose rise appeared to dash hopes of a swift end to war in the Middle East, causing havoc on global markets. The prospect that one of the most severe disruptions ever to hit global economy energy supplies could last longer than previously expected sent oil prices surging in record leaps and stock markets into a nosedive. Khamenei, who is 56, a Shiite cleric with a power base among the security forces and their vast business empire, has been declared unacceptable by U.S. President Donald Trump, who has demanded Iran's conditional surrender. Quote, I think they've made a big mistake, Trump told NBC News when asked about Khamenei's elevation. Iranian state media showed large crowds in several cities rallying behind the new leader, waving Iranian flags and holding portraits of his father, Ali Khamenei, who was killed by an Israeli airstrike on the war's first day. In Isfahan, state TV reported the sound of nearby explosions from apparent airstrikes as loyalists gathered in the historic Ayman Square, chanting, quote, God is the greatest, end quote, below a stage with portraits of Ali and Mojtaba Khamenei. Probably got it wrong. My apologies. In Tehran, a eulogist could be heard singing, quote, either death or Khamenei. Our blood leads to paradise, end quote. Politicians and institutions issued pledges of loyalty to the new supreme leader, whose wife, son, and mother also died at the start of the U.S.-Israeli war onslaught. According to Iranian state media, quote, we will obey the commander-in-chief until the last drop of our blood, end quote, a defense council statement said. Iranians reached by telephone were divided, with supporters of the authorities hailing the choice as a declaration of defiance and opponents fearful it would dash their hopes for a change. Quote, I am so happy that he is our new leader. It was a slap in the face to our enemies that thought the system will collapse with the killing of his father. Our late leader's path will continue, end quote, said a university student, Zahari Mayor Bajari, 21, from Tehran. Many Iranians had initially celebrated the elder Khamenei's death weeks after his security forces killed thousands of anti-government protesters in the worst domestic unrest since the era of Iran's 1979 resolution. But there has since been little sign of anti-government activity, with activists fearful of taking to the streets while Iran is under attack. Now, according to BBC News, the Iranians are deeply divided over Khamenei's rise to power. And this article was written by Han Shep Habib Bazar for BBC Persian, and along with Emily McGarvey. So, Mojtaba Khamenei has been named Iran's new supreme leader and successor to his father, the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed on the first day of the war with the U.S. and Iran. Some pro-establishment crowds, have taken to the streets to celebrate the appointment of a hardliner, close to the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of the IRGC. But other Iranians have told the BBC that they believe it will not bring about a change. Quote, even the thinnest of chances for a change are no more within the system, end quote, said a man in his 30s in the capital, Tehran. He said the Assembly of Experts, an 88-member clerical board that chooses the supreme leader, could not have selected anyone closer to Ali Khamenei. So everything will remain much at the same. They didn't even need to change their chance to support the new leader, quote, close quote. And let's go over to some other news here as well. The Pentagon is identifying the 7th soldier who was killed in action during Operation Epic Fury. And this article was written for Military Times by Riley Cedar and J.D. Simpkins. The Defense Department has identified a 7th service member to be killed in action amid ongoing combat operations against Iran. Sergeant Benjamin N. Pennington, 26 of Glendale, Kentucky, succumbed to his wounds on March 8th, the Pentagon announced, after being wounded during a March 1 enemy attack at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. And here is a photo of this young, brave warrior. So now that he has been publicly identified, I'm quite sure mega condolences will ring out across the country for this awesome human being who served his country with honor. Pennington was assigned to 1st Space Battalion, 1st Space Brigade at Fort Carson, Colorado, the release added. Sergeant Pennington was a dedicated and experienced non-commissioned officer who led with strength, professionalism, and sense of duty, quote, close quote, according to Colonel Michael F. Dyer, 1st Space Brigadier Commander, said in the release. Our deepest sympathies are with his family, friends, and fellow soldiers. We remain dedicated to providing comfort and support at this time and will forever honor his legacy and ultimate sacrifice to our nation. Pennington enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2017 as a unit supply specialist. According to the release, he had been assigned to the 1st Space Battalion since June 2025. His awards include the Army Commendation Medal, 3, Army Achievement Medal, Army Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Overseas Service Ribbon, Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development Ribbon, Korea Defense Service Medal, and the Army Service Ribbon. Pennington will be posthumously promoted to Staff Sergeant. The release added the incident is under investigation. 7 service members have been killed in action during Operation Epic Fury, which began on February 28, when the U.S. and Israel launched military strikes against Iran, killing Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other top Iranian officials. The FBI is launching a probe And they're launching an investigation and probing if ISIS inspired attack outside New York City Mayor Mandami's residence was the cause. And this article was written by Anna Schechter, Lucia Perez Zhang, and Richard Esposito, along with Pat Milton. And this is according to CBS News. Investigators are looking to determine if at least one of the top men arrested after an explosive device was ignited outside New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's residence over the weekend was inspired by ISIS extremists messaging online, law enforcement sources told CBS News. Two men from Pennsylvania are now facing federal charges after being arrested outside Gracie Mansion, the mayor's home, on Saturday. Quote, I can confirm this morning that this is being investigated as an act of ISIS-inspired terrorism, end quote, New York City Commissioner Jessica Tisch said during a news conference today. Federal prosecutors in New York unveiled charges Monday against the two men, 18-year-old Imar Balat and 19-year-old Ibrahim Kayumi. They are each being charged with 5 counts, including attempted support to a designated foreign terroristic organization, use of a weapon of mass destruction, and transportation of explosive materials, according to the federal complaint. Mamdani said they were seen on video throwing 2 devices toward protesters outside Gracie Mansion on Saturday. The FBI said the devices contained explosive materials and fragmentation that could have killed and maimed numerous people. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and pro-Iranian groups have intensified recruiting and calls for violence online since the war with Iran started just over a week ago. The law enforcement sources told CBS News the group had stepped up efforts over the last 18 months, which have intensified since the conflict started. An intelligence source noted this took place during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, and at a time when the intelligence community has seen that impressionable young men who are prone to violence feel justified to act. Tisch told reporters on Saturday that an anti-Islam protest was organized by people associated with Jack Lang, a paroled January 6 rioter and far-right influencer. A group of counter-protesters numbering more than 100 also gathered, and 2 men from Pennsylvania, angered by the anti-Islam protests, brought the homemade bombs to the gathering, intending to cause harm, law enforcement sources told CBS News. The NYPD's bomb squad sent the devices to the FBI's Quantico lab for analysis. One of the devices was determined not to be a hoax device or a smoke bomb, but instead it was an improvised explosive device that could have caused serious injury or death. Tisch said in a statement Sunday. The FBI and NYPD later confirmed both items to be IEDs. The Bureau's New York office said on X, law enforcement sources told CBS that the devices consisted of a sports drink bottle filled or partially filled with explosive material, set inside glass jars and surrounded by fragmentation or nuts and bolts. The fuse was apparently connected to an M80 type firework. 2 sources told CBS News that IEDs contain tricetone, triperoxide, or TATP, a volatile explosive material. It is often synthesized from antimony and hydrogen peroxide, appearing as a white crystalline powder. And another suspicious package or device was found Sunday in a vehicle on East End Avenue, about 3 blocks south of the park where Gracie Mansion is located, the NYPD said, prompting limited evacuations of the building in the vicinity. You know, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of sympathizers with ISIS in America, and they have been here for a long time. I think the movie there was a movie starring Bruce Willis and Denzel Washington, and it dealt with situations like this. I think the movie was called Under Siege, if I'm not mistaken. And and a lot of them are cells are waiting to be awakened for whatever purpose or purposes that they came here for. And unfortunately, individuals must be very, very careful about where they go, who they're going with, or who they befriend, because individuals have disguised themselves and have assimilated into the American nation. You get rid of their beards, and you'll be surprised what individuals are doing. All right, according to Bloomberg, Uber expands female driver option in the US amid mounting assault cases. This article was written by Natalie Lung. I've often asked the question about Uber and Lyft. Why do you not have security with female drivers? And many of them are driving long hours throughout the day. They have no security for anybody. You should have voice recognition activated the moment a passenger gets inside the car. And they should be tracking everything that's going on at all times. And if the driver veers off the designated place immediately, law enforcement should be alerted. All right, let's find out what this article is about. Uber Technologies Incorporated said that a feature designed to match female riders and drivers will be available nationwide, expanding access to a safety measure as it seeks to resolve thousands of sexual assault complaints from passengers in the U.S. The option will be available in markets like New York, Philadelphia, and D.C., following a pilot and subsequent launches in more than 24 other U.S. cities last year. The company said in a statement Monday, riders will see a new on-demand booking option called, quote, women drivers, end quote, alongside the existing Uber X, Comfort, Uber XL, and Black offerings. Customers can reserve such a trip in advance or set their preference in the app settings to increase the likelihood of being matched with a woman. The feature is also offered in cities where teen accounts are available. The move comes as Uber is fighting thousands of pending legal cases in the U.S. that question if the company is responsible for the misconduct of drivers, who are classified as contractors rather than employees. You know what? That's a slick way of saying that they're not going to be held liable for what independent contractors do. You know darn well that these drivers are considered employees for Uber, even though they're considered independent contractors. That's just like people who work within the WWE are considered independent contractors / entertainers, but at the same time, they're also considered employees working for the company. This is that legal double talk that they are going to try to use to justify not settling these cases. In February, a jury returned with a verdict that found Uber liable for not preventing an alleged sexual assault of a female passenger who claimed that she was raped by her driver in Arizona in 2023. The company was ordered to pay $8.5 million in damages, risking raising its cost of a costly settlement to resolve other cases. It prevailed in a similar case last year in California state court. Uber already offers a woman matching option to riders in 6 other countries, including Germany and France. It is also available to drivers in more than 40 other countries. So why was it not made available in America from the rip? You're going to make it available for other countries, but you did not afford the same options for female drivers here in America. I know some of you all don't like what I'm saying, and I really don't care. Because some of you all are probably some of the individuals who work for Uber and Lyft and might be in some devious stuff at the same time. You have to protect the passengers who are the customers making you all money. So if you have the option available in other countries, it should be available here in America. Rival Lyft Incorporated made a similar feature for women and non-binary riders and drivers available nationwide in 2024. While 1 in 5 Uber drivers in the US are women, there is no guarantee of a match because the gender ratio among drivers varies widely. In New York, for example, 94% of taxi and riders hail drivers are male, according to a recent data from the city's taxi regulator. That means passengers could potentially experience longer wait times if they wish to request a woman driver on demand. Users can always opt for another ride with a faster pickup or reserve a trip with a female driver in advance, the company said. Here's another headline. Wife of a Georgia teacher killed in a senior prank makes unexpected request for charged students. Now, this is according to Fox News. This article was written by Sarah Rumpf Winton and Ashley Carnahan. The wife of a Georgia high school teacher who died after what authorities described as a late-night senior prank gone wrong has asked for all charges to be dropped against the students involved. 5 North Hall students were arrested after going to math teacher Jason Hughes' Gainesville home armed with toilet paper to carry out a long-standing prank tradition. Hughes, who was 40, was the intended target Thursday night. As the group tried to leave in 2 separate vehicles, Hughes was walking toward the street when he tripped and fell into the slippery roadway. The Hall County Sheriff's Office said he was then run over by a car driven by 18-year-old Jaden Ryan Wallace. Rather than an angry confrontation, the father of 2 was excited and waiting to catch them in the act, his wife Laura told the New York Times. This is a terrible tragedy, and our family is determined to prevent a separate tragedy from occurring, ruining the lives of these students, Hughes says. This would be counter to Jason's lifelong dedication of investing in the lives of these children. Really? All right, let me get this straight. So the widow asked that all the charges be dropped. Well, suppose this was the same incident with a group of children from a different ethnic origin. Do you think that all the charges would have been dropped? The answer is no, they would not, and you know it. The Hugheses were both teachers at the public school and devoted their lives to teaching. According to the New York Post, the prank had evolved into an ongoing battle whose students lost points if the teacher caught them in the act. So I'm going to show the photo of the wife. This photo is credit from Facebook. This is Laura Palmer Hughes, and Jason and Laura Hughes were both teachers in the North Hall High School. Now, they seem like a wonderful young couple who were really working toward a magnificent purpose of being teachers and future. Now, these are the photos of 2 of the young men. Hold on. I want to be sure I'm getting the right photos. I'll pull them up later. Wallace and the other teens stopped and attempted to help Hughes while waiting for first responders. The teacher later died from his injuries. Wallace faces felony charges of first-degree vehicular homicide and reckless driving, along with misdemeanor charges of criminal trespass and littering on private property. The other 18-year-olds, identified by police as Elijah Tate Owens, Aiden Hux, Anna Catherine Lecoux, and Irina Hughes, were also arrested at the scene and charged with misdemeanor criminal trespass and littering on private property. So these are two of the young men right here that are now being charged. But I don't think they're being charged as adults. The article's not stating that. So according to jail records, they show that Wallace was arrested on Saturday and has a total bail or bond of $1,950. All five students have since been released on bond, court records show. I don't think they should get life in prison. That's not what I'm advocating. And I don't think their lives should be destroyed as a result of this. But at the same time, they have to be held accountable for their actions. And that's true. The Ohio State University president has resigned over an inappropriate relationship. Walter Ted Carter Jr. says he made a mistake in allowing inappropriate access to Ohio State leadership. This is according to The Guardian. Ohio State University President Walter Ted Carter, and this is him right here, he has resigned from the university as its president. Well, let's find out what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen. This article was written by Sarah Brown. The president of the Ohio State University has resigned following this disclosure of an inappropriate relationship to the College Board of Trustees. In a statement, Walter Ted Carter Jr., who had led the university since 2024, said that he, quote, made a mistake in allowing inappropriate access to Ohio State leadership, end quote. The Board of Trustees said that they had accepted Carter's resignation based on the fact that he had an inappropriate relationship with someone seeking public resources to support her personal business, end quote. All right. I'm listening to how this is worded. Inappropriate relationship with someone seeking public resources to support her personal business. The president of the university is responsible for the students. He may oversee certain aspects of departments, but he is not involved in the decision-making process when it comes to approving or disapproving or allocating money. There's something missing from this article already, and I'm going to find out what it is. I'll dig deep until I find it. There's something missing here. They're hiding something. The board appreciates the president's contributions to the university over the last 2 years. The chairperson of the university's board of directors, John Ziegler, said in a statement. Ziegler released Carter's resignation note and the board's response in addition to a public-facing statement. Quote, the board was surprised and disappointed to learn of this matter and takes the situation and its potential impact on the university very seriously. Ziegler wrote in his response to Carter, we respect your decision and appreciate your cooperation in supporting an orderly leadership transition. There's something missing here. I'll find out what it is later. I'll get down to it. All right, here's what I was talking about. According to ABC News, Iran may be activating sleeper cells outside the country, according to an alert. That's what I was talking about earlier. They have planted sleeper cells throughout the United States of America. The encrypted transmission was intercepted by the U.S. And this article was written by Aaron Kurtisky and Josh Margolin. Let's find out what this is about. The U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran. They serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets. outside the country, according to a federal government alert sent to law enforcement agencies. The alert reviewed by ABC News cites preliminary signals analysis of a transmission likely of Iranian origin, quote, close quote, that was relayed across multiple countries shortly after the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, was killed in a U.S.-Israeli strike on February 28th. The intercepted transmission was encoded and appeared to be designed or disdained for clandestine recipients who possessed the encryption key, the key of message, intended to impart instructions to covert operatives or sleeper assets without the use of the internet or cellular networks. Now, let me tell you about the Islam extremists. These people believe to the core the letter of the law of their faith. They are the Islamic extremists, the jihadists, your al-Qaedas, and etc. They would be considered the orthodox version of Islam. While the exact contents of these transmissions cannot currently be determined, the sudden appearance of a new station with international rebroadcast characteristics warrants heightened situation awareness, the alert said. While the alert is careful to say there is, quote, no operational threat tied to a specific location, end quote, it does instruct law enforcement agencies to increase their monitoring of suspicious radio frequency activity. If the contents of the alert prove true, it would confirm the fears expressed by law enforcement officials after the U.S. and Israel struck Iran that sleeper cells deployed around the West could be used for retaliation. All right, let's find out what's happening here and going on around the country. According to President Trump, as reported by Reuters, Trump says Australia has taken care of some Iranian women soccer players. President Donald Trump on Monday said Australia Prime Minister Anthony Albanese told him that 5 members of the Iranian national women's soccer team had been taken care of amid fears they could be punished. Australia's SBS News earlier said 5 players have broken free after the team was eliminated from the Asian Cup tournament and were now under the protection of the federal police seeking assistance from the government. Quote, 5 have already been taken care of, and the rest are on their way, Trump said in a Truth Social post after talking to Albanese. Some, however, feel that they must go back because they are worried about the safety of their families, including threats to those family members if they don't return. See, this is that retaliation toward certain individuals. And they'll take their families and hold them hostage, all in the name of, quote unquote, their religion. Be careful what you subscribe to in terms of your faith. Just be careful. All right, I found some more articles. I want to talk about those as well. Let me go back here. Well, the Democrats make a political bet on DHS demands despite GOP Iran warnings. This was written by Mike Lillis for The Hill. A week after President Trump launched strikes against Iran, Democrats are digging in against reopening the Department of Homeland Security without significant reforms to the agency. Party leaders are amplifying their demands for tougher rules governing agents of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, and border protection, Rank and file Democrats appear to be fully on board, as a test vote in the House on Thursday demonstrated that, if anything, the Iran conflict has only solidified the party's support behind the leadership position. My concern about DHS is their absolute disregard of the Constitution and American citizens' civil rights, said Representative Brad Shiner, a Democrat from Illinois, the head of the New Democrat coalition. So until we see officers who abuse citizens' civil rights held to full account, until we restore full congressional oversight, I'm not giving another penny to ICE and CBP. The strategy carries political risks, as Republicans warn of the threats to national security if DHS remains shuttered indefinitely during the Iran campaign, which show no signs of ending soon. In the wake of the strike, GOP leaders wasted no time invoking the conflict to force Democrats to abandon their push for immigration reforms. No, the Democrats should not abandon their push for immigration reforms. They're trying to take advantage of the conflict between America, Israel, and Iran as a ruse to get what they want without conceding power. That's what's going on here. And individuals have to understand that these people will stop at nothing to get what they want. They don't care. And the government shutdown hits spring break travel with hours-long TSA lines. According to USA Today, for those of you who are planning to have a wonderful spring break, you might want to listen to this article and be prepared for the long stoppage and waits when you go into the airport. This article was written by Zach Witcher for USA Today. Security lines stretched for hours at several major U.S. airports Sunday, March 8th, as a partial government shutdown and the start of spring break travel collided, leaving some passengers scrambling to make their flights. Airports, including Houston's William P. Hobby Airport and Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport, reported unusually long wait lines at Transportation Security Administration checkpoints. At one point, Sunday afternoon, security lines at Hobby Airport averaged for about 3.5 hours by 6 p.m. TSA is experiencing a shortage of workers at the security checkpoint, which is causing longer than average lines, the airport said in a social media post. Travelers reported lines winding through terminals and even outside the buildings. So basically, there are going to be longer waits that are going to take place. Okay, let's see what this is. All right, now let me talk about this here. This is the duality that I'm always talking about. Now, Fox News hails this as an exclusive. Trump rejects shielding Biden records from Senate probes in executive privilege, according to Ashley Oliver, Emma Colton. They wrote this article for Fox News. President Donald Trump rejected former President Joe Biden's assertion of executive privilege over a tranche of documents requested by the Senate as part of various probes into the 46th president, determining it is not in the best interest of the United States. If I recall correctly, hasn't this executive privilege shelter been used by Trump over and over and over and over and over again? Even when he wasn't president of the United States, he was still asserting executive privilege. This is why the Republicans are not liked by the Democrats. Why are they trying to mess the life up of an 84-year-old ex-president who they know is battling cancer? Because they have nothing else better to do. That's why. Every damnable thing that they can do to try to try to embarrass the Democrats or any Democratic candidate or former candidate, they do it because they think it's going to give them leverage going into the midterm elections. And before I continue to read this article, this is the reason why you better keep your eyes on the prize. Don't get distracted. Don't allow now they want to call themselves the GOP. For the past 10 years have been calling themselves MAGA. Now they don't want to be called MAGA anymore. Well, that's the label you're stuck with. You're no longer the GOP. You are MAGA Republicans. That's who you are, and that's what I'm going to continue to call y'all. The MAGA Republicans are hypocrites. The MAGA Republicans want to say and do whatever they want to do. They don't want to talk about inflation. They don't want to talk about health care. They don't want to talk about the deaths of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretty. They don't want to talk about the ridiculous rising costs in mortgage housing prices. They definitely don't want to talk about the price of food. They definitely don't want to talk about gasoline prices. They don't want to talk about anything in terms of affordability and accountability. That is a conversation that must be moot with them. But what they want to talk about Kamala Harris, who's no longer a factor in any of this. They want to talk about former President Obama and blame him for everything that's going on in the country and around the world. Heck, they even want to blame Jimmy Carter. They disrespected Jesse Jackson. How you going to call him a good man and then deny him the recognition that he deserved? Jesse Jackson came up through the trench and the stench of Jim Crow, racism, bigotry, hatred, and everything else from the Deep South and rose to national prominence as one of the world's public foremost figures for justice, freedom, and equality. That's who he was and will forever remain. And to my Black brothers and sisters, you better get back to saying the slogan, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, and respect yourself. Don't let people diminish your identity. Don't let them talk about our culture, our heritage, and the struggles and things that our ancestors have endured. Be proud. Be proud of your heritage the same way the racist Nazis are proud of who they are. Be proud of your ancestors' heritage, no matter if they were a sharecropper, an ex-slave, or a slave. Be proud of the fact that the culture and history that we have is far greater than any negative connotation that our enemies continue to try to say against us. Every major invention in the United States of America, bar none, was invented by Black people. And they try to eradicate them and erase them from history like our contributions do not matter. Well, that day and time is over. According to the article, White House counsel David Warrington wrote Monday in a letter addressed to the National Archives and Records Administration and obtained by Fox News Digital that Trump, quote, does not uphold the former president's assertion of privilege, end quote, over records sought in 4 congressional probes. The letter directs NARA to provide the materials to Congress. Well, Congress also wants something else. But the ineptness of Congress will not give the Democrats what they're talking about. They want a full, unredacted investigation into the entire Jeffrey Epstein saga. But now the Republicans are more concerned about Joe Biden? Are you serious? The dispute centers on documents related to investigations in Biden's health. That is the man's business. That is executive privilege. The public has no right knowing about his health any more than the public has any right knowing about President Donald Trump's health, or Barack Obama, or George Bush. Why are you also concerned about the health of former President Biden, but you get upset when people ask questions about the current president? So the dispute centers on documents related to investigations into Biden's health, alleged political motivated probes into Trump and his allies and the Biden family financial dealings, which Republicans argue go to the heart of Congress' constitutional authority to conduct oversight. Democrats win the midterm elections and shut this foolishness down. This is nothing more than garbage and trash. This is all this is. It's political garbage. It's political trash. And they want to try to take this and use this as a centerpiece for leverage into the midterm elections because they know they can't win. They're not going to win the midterm elections. And you can holler MAGA this and MAGA that and blah, 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 2028 all you want. The MAGA Republicans, you're not going to lie, cheat, and steal your way into a win in November. It's not going to happen. President Biden has a right to exert executive privilege. The letter came as a response to communication with NARA on December 10, informing the White House that the former president had asserted executive privilege over the requested materials. Please. He should sue. If you release anything pertaining to his health, the Biden family should sue to no end. Yep. According to Axios, you MAGA Republicans are not going to like this story. Republican Representative Kylie leaves the GOP, tightening Johnson's margins. Wow. Representative Kevin Kelly, this article was written by who? Oh, Kate Santellalese. He announced his decision to leave the Republican Party and register as an independent, which will take effect immediately. House Speaker Mike Johnson's 2-vote majority just got even smaller. Cowley said he will still caucus with Republicans for administrative purposes, but noted that he's been in a less than reliable vote for Johnson even as a Republican. That's what I am. I'm an independent registered voter. I don't belong to either party. I don't want to be a part of either party. I vote my conscience. I vote what's good for the interests of the nation, not what's good for the interests of the party. I'm what you call one of the swing voters, and I will continue to be an independent. The California Republican did not give leadership a heads up before announcing Friday that he was leaving the party, but he did speak with Johnson over the weekend about continuing to caucus with the conference. Kelly's move comes after mid-decade redistricting dismantled his Republican-leading district, forcing him to run in a far more Democratic territory. Ain't that something? So he knew he couldn't win as a Republican. So he's running as an independent. So that way he thinks his chances of winning are far even greater. He framed the switch as a response to partisanship fueled by gerrymandering. Since gerrymandering seeks to elevate partisanship above everything else in our politics, the best way to counter gerrymandering and its insidious impacts on democracy is simply to take partisanship out of the equation. Well, Kelly, I got news for you. You crooked Republicans are the ones that started the gerrymandering to begin with. Isn't it ironic that the trap that you set to try to stop Black people from voting is come back to bite you? You were all for gerrymandering and redistricting when Governor Greg Abbott down in Texas, the Lone Star state that does everything big, you're all for it. But when California Governor Gavin Newsom decided to do the same thing, now you cry foul. There's something wrong. The governor must be stopped. This is not fair. This is not fair to the MAGA Republicans. This is not fair. But it was all good and wonderful when they did it to the Democrats and y'all even celebrated. Get away from me with this hypocrisy. Kelly stopped short of promising he'll be a reliable vote for Johnson. Yes, he will. He'll continue to vote the interests of MAGA. And you know what? And he's still not going to win. It's not going to happen. A bipartisan group of states refused to sign a settlement between Justice and Live Nation. This is important because Live Nation, they do a lot of business in terms of entertainment. According to the Politico for the Finance and Tax Department, this article was written by Shelley M. Daniels. More than 24 states are refusing to sign the Department of Justice's new settlement with Live Nation, which owns Ticketmaster, in a high-profile antitrust lawsuit challenging the entertainment giant's ticketing sales. A bipartisan coalition of states said the settlement between the DOJ and Live Nation does not fully address concerns of monetization in the entertainment sphere, and it vowed to keep pursuing the company in court. New York, Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Ohio, Kansas, and Maryland are just a few of the states continuing the lawsuit against Live Nation, according to releases sent Monday by several attorneys generals. The settlement, recently announced with the U.S. Department of Justice, fails to address the monopoly at the center of this case and would benefit Live Nation at the expense of consumers. We cannot agree to it, New York Attorney General Letitia James said in a statement, because ticket prices are crazy. Ticket prices are crazy. You go to a wrestling match, a football game, a basketball game. The prices are astronomical. Nobody wants to have to spend $200 and $300 for a ticket, and then $10,000, $20,000 or more, or maybe $100,000 to sit on the floor. The Justice Department and some 40 attorneys general first launched a lawsuit against Live Nation in 2024 under the Biden administration, alleging the concert giant had built an illegal monopoly over live events by controlling ticketing, venues, and artist promotion. Now, I can tell you this for a fact, without going into great detail. Someone that I know personally, who is influential, and they do business with Live Nation, is involved in a major lawsuit with Live Nation, because Live Nation wants to cheat them out of what rightfully belongs to them after forming a partnership with them. You know why contracts are made? Contracts are not for honest people. Contracts are for dishonest people to make them do what they say they're going to do. That's why contracts are made. You can no longer have the honorable contract, a verbal contract, or a handshake, because people are so quick not to live up to the contractual agreements that was written. And as an individual who's becoming an attorney, I'm advising people all the time, if you don't want to read the contracts and things, pay me to do it for you, and I will read every line, colon, semicolon, comma, period, asterisk, etc., including all the fine print. Why do you think many athletes at the end of their career have nothing? Because the agents have lied to them and entered into bogus contracts. The owners have entered into bogus contracts. Their reps have entered into bogus contracts. And they did not shelter the players. That's why I caution all these athletes out here, stop spending all your money foolishly on foolish things, because you will not always be a superstar. You will not always be in the limelight. You will not always have the cheer of the fans. And you have to think about post-sports living. Live modestly instead of being extravagant. If I had $100 million, I wouldn't pay $50,000 for a ring for nobody. I wouldn't waste my money. So Live Nation they argued, the people argued that the ticketing, venues, and artist promotion is out of control. In effect, they argued Live Nation had pushed out competitors and locked venues into exclusive agreements that harm both artists and fans. You remember when Britney Spears, years ago, was going through a very, very tough time, to the extent that she had to have guardianship over her affairs because people were taking advantage of the young woman. Politico Force reported Live Nation's roughly $200 million settlement with the Justice Department on Monday. Live Nation did not respond to a request. Neither did the Department of Justice. Well, when people enter into contracts and when they enter into business, they shall honor the terms of the contracts. The Trump administration issues a grand jury subpoena for Arizona voting records. This article was written for The Hill by Caroline Vikel. The Trump administration issued a grand jury subpoena for records pertaining to the Arizona Senate's 2020 audit of Maricopa County election results. Arizona Senate President Warren Peterson confirmed on Monday. Peterson, who said he had complied with the subpoena, added the FBI has the records. Peterson's post included a screenshot of a Truth Social post made by President Trump, who was celebrating a new story that said the FBI had taken Maricopa County's election records. All right, I'm not going to read the rest of this. I am going to say this as I get ready to leave. If you all don't wake up and see what's going on in this country and in this nation, and that democracy, freedom, and everything is at stake and on the line, and stop just going along with any and everything because somebody tells you, oh, just vote for them because they believe in God or they're so-called Christian. Oh, we're all born-again Christians. So since we're all so-called born-again Christians, everybody should vote the way our pastor says. But your pastor didn't tell you that he got a ton of money in exchange for his support to dupe you all into voting for somebody that's not even a Christian. Then they'll tell you another lie. Well, all Republicans are Christians and all Democrats are demon worshipers. They're devils. They're liars. They're thieves. They don't believe in God. Or at least they don't believe in our version of God. They love the blacks. We don't love the black. The Negro. Our brothers and sisters in Christ. So vote this way, because if you don't vote this way, you're not a Christian. After all, Paula White is the spiritual advisor, and Paula White said it's okay. So we should listen to the lying, cheating, scheming, plotting Paula White. So vote this way, because Republicans don't believe in abortion. Yeah, they do. They have them all the time. I know some Republicans, and I know some of the stuff they have done. Yes, they do. This is what's going on in the country. This is what's going on in the nation. These people are going to try to lie, cheat, and steal the midterm elections because they know if the Democrats ever regain control over Congress and over the Senate, it will not be business as usual. And they know it. The Democrats are going to rein them in ways they never thought was possible. Do your homework. And I will continue to keep people informed, educated, and let you know what's happening and what's going on. This channel is not monetized, so I'm not here to make money. All I simply ask people to do is to subscribe to the channel. That's it. Nothing more and nothing less. That is not a hard thing to do. They subscribe to all these other channels by the thousands. And if a person wants to donate to support the channel, the Cash App is always up there. You'll see it. So I'm out of here. I'll be back later on tonight with my other program. It won't be news. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Never surrender. Never quit. Oops, my bad.